Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new episode of Sports Insight with your host Alandar Khan. And yes, as you know, we give you sports information from all across the globe. You guys can surely reach out to us on our social media handle, which is @Indus News Sports. That basically is for the Twitter and the Instagram. But anyways, we'll go to the headlines first. Yes, Pakistan versus South Africa, the first ODI, and South Africans 273 for 6. Looking forward for that. And West Indies versus Sri Lanka, second test. Yes, West Indies set Sri Lanka 377 to win. And from the world of golf, world number 1 Dustin Johnson withdrew from Valero Texas Open. And from the world of NBA, Miami Heat wins against the Golden State Warriors 116 to 109. All right, those were the headlines, and yes, an interesting match, interesting lineup. Obviously, Pakistan went to visit South Africa, and the tournament has actually started. Pakistan chose to ball first. Obviously, Babar Azam had his own plans. South Africa gave a target of 273 for 6. So that means it's going to be an interesting match-up. We're definitely looking forward for that. And to discuss more on the insight of our visit to the Proteas, we have with us Adrian Ephraim. Adrian, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. It's good to be back.
Great. So Adrian, first things first, the first ODI, Pakistan chose to bowl. Was that a right decision to start off with? And yes, talking about the target, how South Africans actually managed to play a phenomenal innings, specifically when we talk about Rassi itself. How do you see the entire thing or the momentum or the build-up that would Pakistan need to continue chasing this score?
Yeah, I think, look, the preparations have obviously, they're kind of having to get used to this new world, new order of doing things and quarantine. So I think that's the fact that we were on the field and we started playing, that is an achievement in itself, and that there were no security risks to the bio bubble.
Right.
So that's an achievement in itself, and I think we must applaud the administrators for that.
Absolutely.
As far as the toss goes and the Pakistan choosing to field first, yeah, I thought that was a good decision. I think especially if you look at the first 10 overs, with the early wickets that Pakistan were able to get, they must have spotted something on the pitch, a bit of moisture perhaps, a bit of movement early on. And the weather was a bit cooler, I think, up in Centurian near Pretoria. So I think it was a good decision, and I think Pakistan will be okay chasing 273, 274 for victory. I think they will back themselves, but it's going to go down to the wire, I think.
Right. Your take on obviously Rassi's century? I think that's one of the major things that he did today, and ensuring, because if you look at the initial batting top order, so there was a big drop down of wickets, but then he managed to stay there, and obviously being not out. What's your take on that?
I mean, what a time to score your first ODI 100. Right. It's been long coming for Rassi. He's obviously shown a lot of potential over the years. We've been waiting for this moment from him for a long time, and today he got the opportunity because of those early wickets. Right. He got more time at the crease. He found himself at the crease around 40 odd, early on. So, it's good for him. I'm glad to see that he's finally got that under his belt, and I think he will kick on from here. I think we can expect a lot more hundreds from him. The great thing about his century was that he showed a lot of patience early on, and right. He showed a lot of application early on, which the top order didn't. I thought the top order got a bit carried away. Initially, they started scoring very well in the first 5 overs. Right. But then some loose shots started creeping in, and the Pakistan bowlers obviously took advantage of that. Some great bowling, I thought, from Afridi and Hasnan early on. I was really impressed with them in the first 10 overs.
Right. And talking about, I still remember that one specific catch, if you remember, on the boundary. The one catch which was actually taken, obviously Haris Rauf was bowling, and it was Rassi's 100 when he actually took the catch up, but there was no one else out there who could actually get hold of it, and he obviously had to save the boundary. So that's why probably things would have been on a different level if that would have happened.
Yes, I mean, as we saw, Rassi kicked on quite a bit after he got his 100. He managed to get a couple of boundaries after that. I think that catch would have changed things. It would have just stopped the innings short a little bit for South Africa. Yeah, with the T20 cricket, we've gotten used to seeing fielders take these catches these days and having a support fielder around them when they're on the boundary. Unfortunately for the fielder, there was no one around him and that he could throw the ball to. He didn't get enough elevation on the ball to get back onto the field in time. It was unfortunate for him. It would have been a spectacular catch, and as I said, it would have changed things a little bit towards the last 5 overs of that innings.
Right. So tell me something, how do you see the pitch developing for the Pakistani squad? Because let's talk about our squad as well. If we talk about Babar Azam, obviously we know his skills on how he manages to be focused on the ball. I think they have had enough time to practice this time, because obviously touring to the Proteas, they also had to go through the same biosecure bubble situation, but then they had a chance to have their practice matches. How do you see the Pakistani cricket lineup facing the Proteas?
I expect the Pakistan batsmen to come out really, really confident. I think Babar Azam, Fakhar Zaman, I'm looking forward to seeing the debutant Danish as well performing. I think they've got a good batting lineup that could challenge the 274 target. But I think it's going to go quite close to the wire. The South African bowlers are a strong bowling lineup. I think Shamsi is going to be a key slow bowler for the Proteas. But I expect the Pakistan batsmen to deal with him quite confidently. They're used to that kind of bowling in those kind of spin conditions. I don't expect them to have too much trouble with the spinners, but Rabada and Nokia as a tandem are a threat. And then we've got Lungi and Gidi as well as a backup to that. So it's not going to be terribly easy for the Pakistan batsmen, but I think they've got enough talent and skill to make a real run for it and at least take it to the late 40 overs. Right.
The interesting lineup that I'm seeing is obviously the same that actually tells that Imam ul Haq will obviously start with Fakhar Zaman, but the question, and then comes Babar Azam followed up with the rest of the batsmen. I see a very strong lineup with regards to if we start having that unpredictability of our batsmen, because Pakistan does have that issue sometimes. We've been going through that issue for a very long time, the trickle-down effect. But we still, even during that trickle-down effect, we have a bit of Mohammad Rizwan in the mid-side and Fahim Ashraf, at the literally end side. How do you see that strategically?
It's great that they bat quite deep at this point, but I think if they can take one lesson from the Proteas today is that you've got to be patient early on. Yes, Pakistan batsmen are very confident, and Babar Azam has very openly said that they want to be fearless. They want to play confident and fearless cricket. But on this pitch, I think they're going to have to be a bit patient early on. The first 5-10 overs, get themselves in, get to the pace of the ball, figure out the length that the bowlers are going to be bowling, and then kick on from about the 15-20 over mark. They can start kicking on because they have the depth in their batting to continue. But I think, as you say, that erratic behavior, the inconsistency up top could undo them if they lose wickets too early. If they lose 2 or 3 wickets in the first 10 overs, I think they'll be under real pressure chasing that score, especially with the South African bowlers as a unit are quite strong at the moment.
True. Obviously, having that home ground advantage for sure, that's one of the edge that South Africans would have. One interesting question that I was thinking about, and I said I'll definitely discuss with you. Let's talk about Quinton de Kock himself. He had a very rough time when he visited Pakistan and when the Proteas were here. He still had to go through the entire COVID situation, and then obviously going back to South Africa, he wasn't well. He took his time. How do you see him? Because Shaheen Shah Afridi managed to take his wicket early on. So what's your take on that? Because he still needs to, I think, be more consistent. Because when you talk about de Kock, he's like one of the top-notch batsmen for South Africans.
South Africa really needs Quinton de Kock to get into the right frame of mind. I think he's going through a rough patch at the moment. He looked really rusty. First start, a couple of overs, he was playing some nice shots, but then he got a bit maybe into his shell, mistimed the ball, and was caught at mid-off. He's had a rough couple of months. I would say even a rough 12 months. Coming back off the tour of Pakistan, he was basically stripped of the captaincy. And told to kind of just get himself right. He took a mental health break as well. So I really do feel for him. I think he's got tremendous talent. And I just hope that perhaps the time away at the IPL might do him some good, just away from the national setup. I think he's only going to be playing 2 of the 5 matches or 6 matches in this tour. So he will go off to India and play in the IPL. And maybe he might come back with a renewed sense of energy and a better confidence about him. Right. I really do feel for Quinton de Kock. I think he's got a few more very good years for South Africa, and we need him to perform up front for us.
Right. This was the first match of Temba Bavuma as a captain, as an ODI captain. What's your take on that? I'm sure he definitely would have had a lot of pressure. Obviously, him not even managing to score a lot of runs, having his debutant as a captain. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's an historic day for South Africa. Let's face it. We as South Africans are very happy to see him as captain. Right. But he's got a lot of pressure on him. He needs to perform as an individual and need to hold his place in the team as an individual batsman. Right. I thought batting at number 3 might have been a bit of a challenge for him. Perhaps he should maybe look at going down to 4 or 5. That's right. Where he's most suited. Right. But yeah, a lot of pressure on him to perform. And as a new captain, you want to lead the way. You want to lead by example. So I'm looking forward to see how the rest of his series pans out for him. But definitely he needs some runs under his belt. And let's face it, this is only his 7th ODI match. He's played a lot of T20s and of course Test cricket. So he's still probably finding his feet a little bit. But yeah, a lot of pressure on him, but at the same time, a lot of euphoria and happiness that he is now the chosen guy for white ball cricket, at least.
Absolutely. He's like the chosen one for the Proteas. One last question that I would want to ask you. Obviously, with the strike rate of 89.29, David Miller actually managed to hold the Proteas together. And obviously, I think that was the right moment for them to have this kind of batsman with this kind of strike rate. Unluckily, he was out at 50, but what's your take on his performance?
Yeah, I mean, I think David Miller's innings, if even beyond Rassie van der Dussen, is probably even more important to the side today. If you look at it, he came in at a very, very difficult stage. There were 4 down. Someone needed to stay, and it was almost against his instinct to be patient and to stay in there for a long period of time. He's very much used to coming in when we've got 10 overs to play and he can play with freedom. I think David Miller had to play a very uncharacteristic innings today and stick around for a lot more overs and build that partnership with Rassie van der Dussen. And if we look back at the end of this match, perhaps we might see that particular innings from David Miller was absolutely key to South Africa building a total of 273.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so very much, Adrian, for your input with regards to today's match.
Absolute pleasure.
So that was an update from Adrian himself. He's in South Africa right now. He obviously gave us an overview of today's Pakistan's first ODI match, and I think it is going to be an interesting match. Obviously, Pakistan needs to be very solid with regards to chasing the target of 274. Anyways, a quick word on the next news from the world of cricket. I'll just give you a quick one, which is West Indies versus Sri Lanka. The second test. Yes, West Indies set the target of 377 runs for Sri Lanka. West Indies declared the second innings at 280 for 4 wickets. Sri Lanka needs 348 runs at the stumps of day 4. Let's see in the further development of where this match actually heads to. This was pretty much from the golf side. We're going to take a break, and once we're back from the break, we'll discuss more. See you guys after the break. And yes, welcome back after the break. And yes, we were discussing obviously how things are evolving with the world of cricket before the break. But anyways, now we'll surely be switching over to the world of golf. Not to forget that Valero Texas Open is underway. And the surprising part is that Dustin Johnson, world #1, actually withdrew from the tournament. But anyways, to discuss the in-depth analysis we have with our national golf player, Zain Tahir. Zain, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ramdan.
All right, Zain, I'll start with the first things first. The Valero Texas is now ongoing, but I just want to have your take on why Dustin Johnson decided to step back, and your take on the entire thing, how it would evolve and develop for him.
It's an interesting aspect to ask, actually, and an interesting part to cover, why DJ is not playing. And he's not to forget that he's one of the #1 golfers right now in the world golf rankings, and he's placed very well in the FedEx Cup rankings always. And whenever we cover this, it's good to tell the viewers that there are two important things going on whenever a tournament is coming up. It's the FedEx Cup rankings, because it's a tour race that at the end of the year, the top 125 guys play a playoff of 4 matches, and they get a prize of $10 million. That's the biggest purse in the world of sports. If there is a bigger one, I really like to add in my knowledge. I don't think so it is there, no matter what the sport is. So everybody's playing for their FedEx Cup rankings, and everybody's playing for the majors, okay? Because it's a symbolic thing that gives the players a bigger name. Right. So DJ opted out, definitely, because he's the defending champion of Masters, which is the one big thing that's about to happen next weekend.
Right.
And also one prominent thing is that it's not just Dustin Johnson, but I was just looking that none of the top 10 guys, you take Dustin Johnson, Justin Thomas, John Rahm, Morikawa, Bryson DeChambeau, the top 10 guys are not playing Valero Texas Open. Wow. It doesn't mean that the tournament is not that big. Tournament is big, but it is every player's own attitude, and they choose what suits them. Some players choose to get in sync and dialed in just a week before the match, and some players choose to take rest. So DJ has taken the later option.
I think, like you just mentioned, top 10 players have actually opted out. It would definitely give the other players a chance, because if you look back into the situation right now, as Dustin Johnson opted out, Ryan Brehm actually was replaced in that Valero Texas Open. Yes. So don't you think those 10 top players, if they eventually leave or they opted out because of the fact that the FedEx Masters Cup and they want to make more for themselves, this would add more innovation and openness for the upcoming players?
That's actually true. That's actually, I really appreciate the positive side that you can see of the pyramid structure that's there in the corporate sector, in the world of sports as well. And over here, it applies in this manner that the top guys, they get all the opportunities. Right. Now, we know that there are 4 majors, and the major coming next week, Masters, is an invitational major. So strange. You get an invitation, otherwise you don't play. Right. And then there is the WGC matches that was won by Billy Horschel last week. They're held 4 times in a year. Right. They're kind of like the second cadre after the majors. They're also there to get the top guys together. Right. So it's a pyramid structure, and the top guys get more and more chances to get better and better. And the guys at the bottom, they're suffering. So yes, it's quite an innovative way to look at this, that once the top guys opt out, yes, the guys at the bottom, they get a chance to come up. Right. So that's true. And but there are a few prominent guys here, honestly telling you, which is Jordan Spieth, who's playing the Valero Texas Open.
Right. So talking about Jordan Spieth, he's carded a 5 under 67, if I'm not wrong, and he's currently, so let's talk about the vicinity. Let's talk about San Antonio, where it's exactly happening. Is it happening in Texas or San Antonio?
Yeah. It's San Antonio is kind of like it's kind of, you remember we mentioned last week there was the Florida Swing, which had the Bay Hill Invitational, the Players, and the Honda Classic. Right. So there was a very big 3 matches. After the Florida leg, the PGA Tour goes on to Texas, which is started with WGC Dell Match Play, which happened in Texas. And this is in vicinity of San Antonio. It's overall the same area. The courses are hardly 50-60 kilometers apart. And this match is being held on one of the courses. It's called the Oaks Course. This is also inside Texas, and it's designed by Greg Norman, one of the legendary Australian golfer.
Yes, I remember Greg Norman. I remember Greg Norman back in the days when I used to follow golf a lot. There was an actual time when I used to follow. I remember Greg Norman's performance. Nice. So definitely a legend.
Yeah, he's called the shark, the white shark of the game, and it's just a symbolic name given to him. He unfortunately never won any of the majors, never won Augusta, but he has been the top Australian guy out there. So Jordan Spieth, coming back to him, he's a guy born in Texas, and since I've been in close contact with the game, I play it a lot, so I know that you have an inclination and you have your distances much better dialed in, and a better eye set and a better muscle memory set on courses which belong to the place where you have been brought up. So Jordan Spieth is from Texas, and that's why he played Dell Match Play last year. Dell Match Play was a bigger match. Everybody gets the invitation for that. But he opted for Valero Texas Open. And then, like I said, maybe he's a guy who chose to, get warmed up before the Masters. And not to forget that Jordan Spieth is an 11-time PGA Tour victory, and he has had a career trajectory which was compared with Tiger Woods and Phil Mickelson at once, because he was winning so much. And since 2017, the guy is at a crossroad of his life where he is facing a drought of no victories on the PGA Tour. He has been on the cusp of winning recently, and he is coming up on the world golf rankings from a point where he had won the FedEx Cup. He was in the top 10. In 2019, he was ranked in 300 plus ranking, which was way low, and now he's back to 58. So the guy is struggling. Villegas is a Colombian. He's leading, and Jordan Spieth is trying to catch him. And like I said, you can't win on Thursday, but you can certainly put yourself in a position.
Right. We've actually seen that, people changing the entire game on the last day, as you've mentioned before. Well, let's talk about one more thing that I wanted to ask about. As you said that, for those who have that muscle memory, who belong to the same area, it's more like a home ground edge, if I'm not wrong, in terms of football or cricket or.
We have seen that in other sports, that home ground matters, the crowd matters, and there's a crowd cheering going on. Although due to COVID, maybe there's not much crowd around these days, but Jordan Spieth really plans to, play and build up, get a good build up for Augusta coming next week.
Right. So tell me more about the upcoming tournament, due to which obviously the rest of the top 10 actually opted out for. We'll probably switch there so we have a better idea and knowledge about what worth is it, why exactly are they preferring to get there. Obviously, this allowing to give the youngsters a chance, or maybe those who want to be a part of this Valero Texas Open. I would rather want to talk about the upcoming tournament next week that you just mentioned.
Yeah, that's quite critical these days. It's one of the big news that is covering the PGA Tour and the world of golf, actually, from all over the world. People are looking towards it, whether it's the people watching television or the players playing. Now that we have been discussing this for quite a while, Alamdar, we know that there is a FedEx Cup race going on, and that is what happens in the whole year, where who wins the tour. And the top 125 guys are going to play 4 FedEx Cup playoff matches in August. Inshallah, we are going to be discussing that. Besides that, there is majors, there is youngsters trying to make their place and win the card on the PGA Tour, get exemptions. If you win Augusta Masters next week, there are so many youngsters out there who are going to be given a card to play the PGA Tour for 5 years. They don't need to qualify again and again. So all these guys who are playing Valero Texas Open, any of them, if they win Valero Texas Open, they might not be in the top rankings to play Augusta, because not to forget that Augusta is an invitational major. You can't play it just by being in the rankings. You get invitation based on, of course, your rankings and your performance. So if a youngster wins Valero Texas Open, he gets an invitation to Augusta, and it's a dream come true for him. And he's going to try to win that and make a name in the history of the sports. And that's one thing. So coming to the points criteria, FedEx Cup gives you 600 points if you win Augusta. For the WGC matches, it is 550, and for the smaller matches, it is 500 and below, depending on where you have finished. And the purse of Augusta is $2 million for the winner, and an overall purse of $11.5 million. Like we always talk, that this game pays a lot. This game is one of the highest paid sports in the world. Dustin Johnson is the past winner. Not to forget that he has had top 5 consecutive, top 5, not top 5. He has had 5 top 10 consecutive finishes in Masters, and eventually he won last year in Augusta Masters. So that's how it's building up, actually.
So where exactly would this tournament be held? I mean, like the location, do they change the golf
It's held in Augusta, Georgia.
It's in Georgia.
That's a very good question. Augusta is one of the majors that has been held on the same course since since the course has been made, since 1932. I think it's the 85th edition of Augusta Masters that's going to happen. Yes, I'm correct, I guess. And since the first day, it has been held on Augusta, Georgia. The course doesn't change, and there is an inclination of the whole golfing world and the players and the crowd with that course. The fans have just a dream just to walk that course even. So the venue never changes for Augusta. It's a good question, because the venue does change for golf tournaments, but not for Augusta. And the venue changes for all 3 of the majors other than Augusta. But for Augusta Masters, the venue never changes.
So that means all those players who actually have been playing Augusta, obviously they've come up to a point of playing there. Like you said that, Dustin Johnson actually won there. So the point is, all those players, all those golfers who play there off and on, do they change the entire course structure, or the course structure or the holes, everything remain the same?
It doesn't change, but that's the beauty of this game, Alamdar. Your question addresses the fact that how come you can't go every day in Islamabad and Lahore or in any other part of the world in any golf course, and the golfers are just continuously showing on the same course with the same greens and same length, and they don't bring the same score every day. That's the beauty of this game. You want to play against yourself and against the ground, okay? And you want to do better and better, and you want to bring your best score. So, like you take Dustin Johnson. Last year, he won with a margin of 5-stroke victory, which was a record margin after 1997,
right.
which the whole world remembers, because in 1997, a young Tiger Woods showed up in the world of golf. He was 21 years old, and he won with a margin of 12-stroke victory that has never been broken. Right. So Dustin Johnson came close to it by winning a 5-stroke victory. So
great.
It's the same course and the same conditions.
Well, thank you for the added knowledge and being a part of the show, Zan. It was a pleasure.
Always a pleasure from my side, Ramdar.
Thank you. So that was Zan. Actually gave us an entire perspective of not only the Valero Open, but he also mentioned the FedEx Cup, which actually every leader is looking forward to and trying to make their win. But anyways, the next news that I'm going to switch over to is the world of NBA. Yes, talking about Miami Heat winning against the Golden State Warriors, 116-109. And Duncan Robinson actually scored 21 points for Miami to win against, obviously, the Warriors. The Warriors lost them for the 5th time in the past 6 games. So it's been technically very hard for them. And Stephen Curry scored a 9-point with back-to-back 3-pointers. But yet again, like I said, it's still developing. There are many more matches happening. And not to forget, not only this match that we focused on, we'd focus more on the Nets, who actually managed to win against the Hornets. And remember, we did have a talk yesterday with regards to how the situation is for the Nets, because James Harden is currently out, being injured. Only Kyrie Irving is still in the show. And not to forget that, you know, when you have James Harden injured, everybody was like, will Hornets be able to get there? But for that, LaMarcus Aldridge, yes, a guy who was in Spurs, just joined the team, and it was his debut match, and he managed to take that victory for Nets against the Hornets. But anyways, that was his debut match. Let's hope things go well for the Nets in the future as well, and all the injuries that have been coming in. Let's hope all the players come back. Anyways, guys, this was pretty much it for today's show. If you want to reach out to us, you can on our social media handle, which is @Indus News Sports. Till then, take good care of yourselves, and bye-bye.